It's so still in here, it's like you can hear a pin drop. It's so still in here, I just feel like as if there's nothing for me to say. There's this story of a spiritual teacher who gave a talk. Well, he came out on stage and he sat down. And it was happening all outdoors. And then a bird flew down and just perched there and started to sing. And he listened to that. Then when the bird was finished and flew off, he goes, "Thank you, that was the teaching," and he walks off. I gave a meditation at our last foundation meeting. And before the meditation finished, as I was talking and guiding them through the meditation, suddenly I just got up off the chair and left the stage. And then I can see the producers suddenly opened their eyes because they were sitting there doing the meditation and they're going there, "Did we miss something? Where'd she go?" But that's what it's like. It's the emptiness, the stillness within you that is really the true teacher. And we may utilize a physical form, a teacher, and we may even idolize that teacher. We end up putting the teacher on this pedestal. But eventually, we reach a point in our awakening where you see that teacher as perfectly normal. And you go, And you realize that that teacher, that essence of the teacher, is within you. And this is what we connect with. So there may be a physical teacher who guides you and points, but he or she is only pointing back to you to look within. It's in here. So that you become not only the teacher, but you still remain the student who still is evolving, learning, growing in consciousness. Nothing to do, nothing to get, but yet the conditioned sense of self, so that self that has this identity, this name, this personality, and has the accumulation of perhaps old emotional wounds that Eckhart calls the pain body. There is that, we can almost call it an entity. And yet on the other hand, the hand that is most likely to be forgotten is the essence of who we are, is that unconditional sense of self. And both are here right now. It's like, what are we going to choose to follow? The unconditioned self, that sense of inner peace, that stillness, the consciousness that you are, the formless dimension. And yet there's that form dimension, that person, the pain body, the ego, And maybe sometimes we might choose that form dimension. Whether we choose it consciously or unconsciously, we will sometimes choose it. Why? Because there's this somehow attachment to it. There's this sense of fear that can happen as we begin to awaken, that fear of that no self, that emptiness. I remember the first experience that I had of just feeling that really deep sense of stillness, that there was nothing there in me. And this was many, many years ago. And I was sitting there with Eckhart, and it was time for me to drive home, and I thought there was no sense of self there, that I actually thought, I don't know if I can drive. I'm not sure if I'll remember how to drive. It was like there was no memory there of driving. So he says, well, I better take you home. So he took me home, and then the next morning I was still feeling this sense of peace and this sense of nothingness. And I had to go get my car. So I went down to go get my car, still feeling this way, not knowing if I can drive. Getting in my car, turning on the engine, and then suddenly I went driving the car. It's like, oh, okay, it comes back. So I'm driving peacefully back home in the car. But prior to that experience, I remember the fear that would arise. And some of you may experience that fear of letting go of your identity, your so-called identity as a human, and fear of then the beingness, the unknown. And it's that fear of that unknown, which is simply a thought. Because how can you really fear something that is not known? It's impossible. But what our mind does, it fears the idea of what the unknown is. There's a difference. So the mind can make up all sorts of stories, and it will do that as we awaken and go through this. And for most of us, the awakening is a gradual process. Now, if we eliminate time completely, and that's the reality, there is no time, but time is a concept. We can be free of the conditioned mind right here in this moment. Does that mean that that conditioned sense of self completely drops away? Yes, it could. And then on the other hand, what will happen is this arising of awareness, consciousness, admits the conditioned self. So once you have this gap, this space of awareness and then the conditioned self, you are no longer trapped in that conditioned self. There's this gap, the space, and you are that space. You are that gap in which the conditioned self appears. And it's like, oh, okay, that's fine. It's not a problem. As the awareness in us blossoms and grows, the conditioned self, we can say, transcends, transmutes, dissolves. But will it completely dissolve? Don't know. You have to get there to find out. But I observed that something of the conditioned self remains. And it's okay that it remains, as long as we are not identified with that conditioned self. We sense the awareness. The conditioned self operates. And that conditioned self could be simply just something cultural that you were raised. I'll give an example. This is the first time that I sort of saw that conditioned self and how it can still linger, but it's not a problem. Eckhart used to maybe sitting there and he'll say, "Oh, is your water not good?" Or if I'm eating something, "Oh, is your food okay?" "Yeah, it's fine. My water's fine. Food is fine." Okay. So one time we were in Germany, he decided to stay back at the hotel and not go to dinner with this group. And I was with this group of people having dinner, and the woman across from me, who is German, because we're in Germany, says, "Oh, is your water not good?" "My water's fine, thanks." And then the man next to me, who is also German but is more cultural, understanding of more of the American culture, he goes, "She's really asking for a sip of water." And I said, No, she asked me if my water was good." No, that's how Germans ask for a sip of water." And I went, "Holy cow, you mean all these years Eckhart's been asking for a sip of water? He must have thought that I was just greedy or something and not wanting to share." But I learned something culturally. And I learned something culturally of him, that's how the Germans ask. So of course, I'm going, "Oh yeah, of course. Is that what you were asking?" To the woman I said that, and she said, "Yeah." I went, "Wow, okay." So of course I get back to the hotel and I says, "I can't believe what I've just learned." And I go, "All this time when you would ask me if something was good, were you really asking me for a little piece of it?" "Yeah." So it's important to see that, the cultural sense still may be there, and I think it's important to begin to understand other cultures. Because if he didn't have that understanding and that acceptance and that allowing and not, what will happen is that mind may come in. So if you have the unconscious person sitting there and they say, "Is your water not good?" And I'm saying, "Hey, it's fine, thank you for asking." And that unconscious mind might turn around and say, "Oh my God, I can't believe how selfish she is. She won't even share her water. She's not drinking it. She won't even give me a sip." So we have to watch how that mind begins to interpret and perceive through that conditioned sense of self. Instead of the conditioned sense of self can operate and, okay, ask if your water's not good, accept that perhaps this person doesn't want to share and that's okay. Or perhaps just understanding that this person doesn't know, and maybe then you may have to actually verbalize, because in the North American culture, the Western culture, we're kind of more blunt. "Hey, can I have a sip of your water?" So now, as Eckhart and I talk about that, and we shared, he'll sometimes say, is your water no good? Or he may say, may I have a sip of your water? So we broaden our sense of, you can say, the conditioned sort of sense of self without any attachment to it. It's okay. It's finding that space within yourself that is of no mind, no thought, no self, admits the arising of the form dimension. And it's not about getting rid of the form dimension, and it's perhaps not even changing that form dimension. We've all been there where we like to change and control that form dimension. So we just let that go, be the stillness within, and from there, right action, right words will follow. So it's then, oh, okay, I'm here as this witnessing consciousness, this feeling entity that we call our bodies, that we call our names by, Kim, John, Joan. But if we eliminate, so deep within, know within yourself, so it's not that we have to eliminate our names, so that when we go to the airport and they talk to you, or somebody even asks you, what's your name? I have no name. They'll probably throw you behind the scenes there and just go, okay, this person is crazy. You could do that in India, but not in the West. So we know that. We understand that within ourselves. And we accept that form dimension no matter where you are in the level of your consciousness right now, whether you're identified with the form, identified with that sense of small self that has a name, that has a gender. I mean, who knows what actually the future holds with this new generation coming up where they don't want to be identified with their gender. It's transgender. They don't want to be known as a female or as a male. I mean, growing up in a conditioned world where we are used to having a gender and being a gender, when you go into that depth of who you are neither male or female. You are the beingness, yet male and female arises in the beingness that you are. So you come into this world as, yes, one form or the other, or the appearance of one form or the other. Because there are some people that will say, I may look outside like a female, but I don't feel like a female inside. I feel like a male. And then they'll reach a point where it's like, I don't feel like male and female, but yet I have this feminine body, or yet I have this masculine body.